Today we're going to jump in and see ChatGPT-5 operate in agent mode. We're going to use the agent mode to auto-provision artifacts for us in Azure. I've constructed a prompt of about 140 words, and out of that we're going to get a resource group, a logic app, build out the logic app, and give us a Postman file in order to test the work that is done.
Okay, let's jump right in and let's see how easy it is to get ChatGPT-5 Agent Mode to autonomously build artifacts in Azure on our behalf. Super cool stuff. I've launched here the ChatGPT desktop version. What I'm showing you here works exactly the same way in the web version as well. I've tested it in both places. Now I do have a GPT Plus account, so I do have more access to agent mode than free users. I believe all free users do get some access to agent mode, so even if you don't have a paid account, I do believe you'll still be able to run this exact same demo. Now to get started, make sure you're ChatGPT-5 on the top left, and then click the plus icon here, and you want to select agent mode. And here it tells me how many more. I have 23 executions left before my quota is going to reset, so I'm going to select that. And now here I'm going to simply copy and paste my prompt in here. So let's take a quick look at the prompt that we're using for this. Now here's the simple prompt that I put together. In total, it's about 140 words or so it's not very long. And I just wrote this myself. I didn't put it in any ChatGPT program to enhance it or anything like that. And it's got 4 key pieces to it. The first piece here, I'm saying log into Azure and create a resource group, and I'm giving it a name and what region to create it in. And then I added this line here that says click continue once configured without prompting. Now, the first time I ran this, I didn't have this line in here, and every time it needed to click a button on screen, it would prompt me whether or not I wanted to let it click that button. And I said, well, let's see if I can just have it do that automatically, because I don't want to stop every time it has to confirm something. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, go ahead and continue once you have this done without prompting. So you'll want to make sure you use these carefully and know what's going to happen when you have that in there. Now, the second step here, I'm going to say create a consumption-based logic app, just because that's a little bit easier. I'm giving it the resource group name that we created up above and what I want to call that logic app. Again, I'm saying continue once it is completed. Then the third step here is I want to build out that logic app. I want to put components, put actions in there to do things. And I'm just going to put an HTTP request and response. And on top of that, I want the response to return whatever the request is. So it's going to have to manipulate some parameters inside those actions. So we'll see if it takes care of that all for us. And like before, I'm going to say click save at the end of creating that logic app. And then the fourth step here is I'm going to want to test that logic app once it's complete. So I'm going to go ahead and create a Postman file that I can download and import and test that logic app. Now I'm telling you here to try to get the URL for that logic app. It has had problems. This is about the 6th time I've ran this. It has had problems getting that URL before. It always ends up finding it. Sometimes it kind of stumbles around a little bit. So I'm just going to say I've worded it a little bit differently here. So we'll see how that works. So with that, let's paste this into ChatGPT. And I'm just going to paste that here. And then to get started, I just click the black arrow, and it's going to go ahead and do this for me. Now, as this runs, it's going to set us up a desktop environment, which is going to execute and manipulate on our behalf. If any time we want to take control of what's going on, there is a button, we'll see it here in just a second, that we can jump in and take control of what's going on. You can also click down here and say stop at any time if you wanted to stop. And it's very clear about telling you what's going on step by step through this process as this agent is executing. You can also go back in time down here and jump to live view, stuff like that. Now, since I have ran this before, there is some context associated with this desktop. So if you can see here, it does have my email address to my Azure account already populated for me. So this is kind of a cool time-saving feature. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now I am using a secondary Azure account that has very limited access to any of my components in Azure. So keep in mind if you're building this demo yourself, what account you're using and what permissions it might have to your Azure artifacts. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this with anything that has any type of production access or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And then this next step here is saying stay signed in, and I definitely don't want to stay signed in. Pretty sure this context of this desktop is going to be just for me, but I do want to make sure that anybody else that might be running in my account isn't going to be auto logged in or anything like that. So once this loads here, I've done my authentication, and this should be the only thing I have to do. Now, once I'm done with control, I click finish controlling. And this is going to jump back into agent mode. And now it's going to go ahead and complete all the rest of the steps for us. And we shouldn't be prompted for any interaction until it is complete at the end. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and let this run. It's going to talk about what it's doing step by step. And we will jump back in a few moments. I'm going to run this at faster speed, so you can feel free to jump to the end of this using the chapter markers. If you don't want to see this execute, it's kind of fun to read what it's going through. And every once in a while, it gets stuck somewhere and kind of fiddle around in the browser. All browser type issues that I've ran into in the past. One time the browser did hang, so the agent didn't know what to do in that respect, so I had to jump in and stop it, and just went ahead and restarted. So it'll tell you what it's doing here. You'll actually see what it's doing, and I'll jump back in just a few moments, and we'll see how the execution ran. Okay, that is complete. That took about 15 minutes altogether to run, and that's pretty average about what I've seen in past executions. And if you happen to watch the video at all, the first 6 minutes or so was setting up the Azure components, the logic app, and the resource group, and that went better than any of the past executions I've seen in the past. It went quite flawlessly, actually. And the last 10 minutes or so was the agent fumbling around trying to figure out how to get the URL to put in the Postman script. So there's definitely optimization I could do on that side. And by being able to see the execution of the agent, you can see kind of the problems that it had. And I could have probably jumped in and helped it along a lot faster. But for the purposes of the demo, I just wanted to let it run. So here's my Postman file that it already created for me. And let's go ahead and let's jump into Azure and see what it created for us. Okay, I'm now in my Azure portal. And here's resource groups. I'm just going to go ahead and do a refresh. Here's my new resource group that I asked it to create for me on my behalf. I'm going to jump in there. It looks just like we expect it to. It's the East 2 is where it created that logic app as well. So that's fantastic. Here's my logic app. Let's jump into here. And let's go to Designer. And here's my designer. I have my request and my response. And my response is returning the body just like I asked it to, which is fantastic. And while we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and grab this URL. We might need this when I run the Postman script, but we'll see. So everything looks here exactly like I would expect. Now, there was past executions where I had it rename these actions. And I simply just said, rename the actions according to Azure best practices. And it went ahead and renamed them very well, in fact. But for this demo, I took that line out of the prompt. So let's jump in and download that Postman file and see if this works. So I'm back in ChatGPT now, and then to download this file, I'm just going to click the link and go ahead and save that to my downloads folder. And now let's go ahead and import that into Postman. I'm going to jump over to Postman. Okay, now in Postman, just going to go import, go to Files, and select that file. You can see there's other past executions that I've ran this in the past. And it imported our Postman collection right here, invoke logic apps. Oh, it did put the URL here. Let's go ahead and let's just run it. And a hello from Postman. And let's go ahead and double check this body. And let's just go ahead and add something here. I'll just put my initials and we'll just run it again. And just like that, sure enough, we see that, in fact, this is working. So we essentially had our GitHub Copilot agent jump in here and build all these artifacts for us completely without any interaction other than having to log into the Azure portal, which is totally to be expected, and built all these just fantastically and in a short amount of time. And compared to past executions, this is definitely one of the best ones I've seen. It got the URL correctly and put it in this Postman script, and everything worked just right out the bat, which is fantastic. So let's jump back over to ChatGPT just for a moment. And now back in ChatGPT, you will be able to see here where it says it worked for 15 minutes. If you click on that link, it is going to open up the session that it actually executed, and you can come back in time. And you can come in here and see all the kind of things that this agent did on your behalf and watch it. So if you ever had a question about what it did, you see something that's not quite right, you could just jump in here and see exactly what that agent did. And again, like I said, anytime you wanted to take control, you could have jumped in here and there was a button up here and I could have taken control of that agent session. Now, this window here, definitely not an ideal window. It's not resizable. This is the only size you get. You can see here it is a little crunched on this screen, and I have seen the agent get a little confused trying to click out of the action parameters over here on the right and get back into the surface, the designer surface. And that's just simply because there's not a lot of real estate for it to move around in. So I can see enhancements down the road of, making this bigger, being able to pop out, stuff like that. So really what I wanted to show you here is how you can use this ChatGPT-5 agent mode to auto-generate any of these components in Azure. Now I used a logic app and a resource group here, but I don't see why you couldn't do this for almost anything in Azure. So you can create an English prompt and just paste it in there and just let it run and work on your behalf. Like I said, this is brand new functionality to ChatGPT. I wouldn't jump in here and be doing this for production code by any means. So now what this really should do is give you an idea to start thinking about some of the things you can do with this and how you might be able to use this in the future to help make your life easier and make yourself as a developer much more productive. So with that, I'm going to conclude our demo, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.